Captain HFY stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Void Seeker, her four eyes focused on the strange readings coming from the screens in front of her. The ship had been traveling through empty space for 3 months, mapping the outer edges of the galaxy where few had dared to go before. This area was known for its dangerous radiation storms and lack of useful planets. "Captain, we are getting something odd here," said Science Officer Krelton, his tentacles moving quickly across his control panel. "There is an energy signal coming from the third planet in this system." HFY moved closer to look at the data. The Zephyrian people were known throughout the galaxy for being the best at science and exploration. They had discovered more new worlds than any other species. But this reading was different from anything she had seen before. "What kind of energy?" she asked. It looks like technology. But it is very weak and very old. Maybe 200 years old or more?" The captain's main eyes narrowed while her smaller eyes continued to watch the other screens. 200 years was a long time, even for species that lived as long as the Zephyrians. "Can you tell what kind of technology?" "It appears to be human." "In origin, Captain." This made HFY pause. Humans were one of the newer species in the galaxy. They had only been traveling between stars for about 300 years. Most human colonies were close to their homeworld, Earth. Finding humans this far out in the empty rim was very strange. "Are you certain?" she asked. "The energy patterns match human fusion reactors, but they are very primitive. Much older than anything humans use today." HFY thought about this. She had met humans before at trading posts and diplomatic meetings. They were an interesting species, always curious and quick to learn. But they were also known for taking risks that other species would consider too dangerous. "Set course for the planet," she ordered. "But keep our shields up and weapons ready. We do not know what we might find." The Void Seeker changed direction and began moving toward the planet. It was a small world, mostly covered in brown and green land with 2 large oceans. The atmosphere readings showed it could support most life forms. But it was not the kind of planet that would normally attract colonists. The soil was poor, the weather was harsh, and there were no valuable minerals or resources. "I am detecting life signs," reported Communications Officer Zixara. "Maybe 10,000 beings, all human. They seem to be spread out in small groups." "Across the main continent? 10,000? HFY was surprised. That is a very small number for a human colony. Most human settlements have at least 100,000 people. "Yes, Captain, and their technology readings are very low. They appear to be using very basic tools and machines." As the ship got closer, the crew could see the planet's surface more clearly. There were small towns and farms scattered across. The buildings were simple and made from local materials. There were no large cities, no spaceports, and no signs of advanced technology. "It looks like they are just farmers," said Krelton. "How did they get here with such primitive equipment?" "Maybe they have been here so long that their technology broke down," suggested Zixara. "If they have been isolated for 2 centuries, they might have lost the ability to maintain their advanced machines." HFY nodded. This made sense. She had heard stories of colonies that had been cut off from the rest of the galaxy and had slowly lost their technology over generations. It was sad, but it happened sometimes. "Begin scanning for the best place to land," she ordered. "We should make contact and see if they need help." The ship's scanners worked for several minutes, mapping the planet's surface and looking for the largest settlement. They found a town near the coast that seemed to be the center of the human population. It had about 2,000 people and several larger buildings that might be important. "Captain," said Krelton, "I am getting some strange readings from that town." "What kind of strange?" "The energy patterns are different. Still low, but more complex than I would expect from primitive farming equipment." HFY looked at the data herself. The readings were indeed odd. The energy signatures were weak, but they had a complexity that seemed unusual for basic tools. "Perhaps they have kept some of their old technology working," she said. "We will know more when we meet them." The Void Seeker entered the planet's atmosphere and flew toward the coastal town. As they got closer, the crew could see people working in fields and walking along dirt roads. The humans looked up at the ship but did not seem afraid or surprised. This was also strange. Most primitive colonies would be very frightened by the arrival of an alien ship. "They do not seem worried about us," observed Zixara. "Maybe they have seen ships before," said HFY. "Or maybe they are just brave." The ship landed in a large field outside the town. Within minutes, a group of humans approached the ship. They were dressed in simple clothes and carried no weapons. One of them, an older woman with gray hair, stepped forward and raised her hand in what appeared to be a greeting. "Should we open?" "Communications?" asked Zixara. "Yes, but be careful. Use the standard first contact protocols." The communications officer activated the ship's external speakers and began transmitting in basic human language. "Greetings. We are explorers from the Zephyrian Republic. We come in peace and wish to make contact with your people." The older woman smiled and spoke in clear, confident words. "Welcome to New Eden. We have been expecting visitors for some time. My name is Sarah Chun, and I am the director of this colony. We would be honored to meet with you." HFY was surprised by the woman's calm response and formal language. Most isolated colonists would be more excited or confused by first contact with aliens. This Sarah Chun spoke like a trained diplomat. "She does not sound like a primitive farmer," whispered Krelton. "No, she does not," agreed HFY. "But appearances can be deceiving. We will go out and meet them, but stay alert." The captain put on her environmental suit and selected 2 officers to accompany her. They left the ship and walked toward the group of humans. Sarah Chun stepped forward to meet them. "Captain HFY of the Void Seeker," the alien introduced herself. "We detected your colony's energy signature and came to investigate. We were not aware that humans had settled this far from Earth." "We have been here for 215 years," Sarah replied. "Our ancestors came on one of the early colony ships. The journey was difficult, and we lost contact with Earth shortly after arriving." "That must have been very hard for your people," said HFY with genuine sympathy. "How have you survived for so long without support from other human worlds?" Sarah smiled. "We have learned to make do with what we have. This planet is harsh, but it has provided for us. We have built a simple but good life here." As they talked, HFY noticed that the other humans were watching them with interest, but not fear. Children peeked out from behind their parents, and some adults took notes on what appeared to be handmade paper. Everyone seemed calm and organized. Not at all like she would expect from an isolated, struggling colony. "Your people seem very composed," HFY observed. "We have had time to prepare for this moment," Sarah said. "We always knew that someday other travelers would find us. We have been planning for that day." "Planning how?" "We have maintained records of our history and culture. We have prepared areas where visitors can stay comfortably. And we have discussed what we would want to share with the outside galaxy." This was becoming more interesting. HFY had expected to find desperate colonists begging for rescue or supplies. Instead, she was meeting organized people who seemed to have thought carefully about contact with other species. "We would very much like to learn about your colony," she said. "Would it be possible for us to stay for a few days and document your society?" "The Galactic Council is always interested in how human colonies develop." Sarah nodded. "Of course. But we will need a day or 2 to prepare certain areas." "For your visit?" "Some of our ... facilities are not quite ready for guests." "Facilities?" "Community centers, workshops, places where we do our more complex work. We want to show you the best of what we have accomplished here." HFY agreed to wait. The humans provided the alien crew with comfortable accommodations in what appeared to be a simple but well-built guest house. The food was surprisingly good and the beds were comfortable. But as the captain lay down to rest, she could not shake the feeling that there was more to this colony than met the eye. The next morning, Sarah Chun gave them a tour of the town. The buildings were indeed simple, made mostly of local wood and stone. But Dexvi noticed that they were built with impressive precision. The joints were perfect, the walls were straight, and everything fit together with the kind of accuracy that usually required advanced tools. "Your construction is very skilled," she commented. "We have had many generations to practice," Sarah replied. "And we believe in doing things right, even if it takes longer." They visited the farms outside the town. The crops were healthy and abundant, growing in soil that the ship's scanners had said was poor and difficult to work with. The irrigation systems were simple, but very effective. The animals looked well-fed and healthy. "Your agricultural success is impressive," said Krelton. "How do you achieve such good results with this challenging soil?" "Years of careful soil management and selective breeding," Sarah explained. "We have learned to work with the planet rather than against it." As they walked, Dexvi noticed that the farm tools, while simple in appearance, seemed to work with unusual efficiency. The plows cut through the hard ground easily, and the harvesting equipment processed crops faster than she would have expected from such basic machines. "Your tools seem quite effective," she observed. "We have made improvements over the years," Sarah said. "Small changes that add up to big differences." That afternoon, they visited the town school. The children were polite and curious, asking intelligent questions about the aliens and their ship. Their teacher, a young man named Marcus, led them through lessons that covered mathematics, science, and history. The level of education was much higher than Dexvi had expected from an isolated colony. "Your children are very bright," she told Sarah. "We believe education is the most important thing we can give them," Sarah replied. "Knowledge is the one resource that never runs out." As evening approached, Sarah invited the aliens to dinner with the colony's leadership council. The meal was held in a large building that served as both a meeting hall and community center. The food was excellent, and the conversation was lively and intelligent. The council members were all well-educated and articulate. They discussed art, science, philosophy, and politics with the kind of depth that Dexvi usually found only among the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. These were not simple farmers struggling to survive. These were thoughtful, educated people who had built something remarkable in their isolation. "Tomorrow," Sarah announced as the evening ended, "we will show you some of our more specialized facilities. I think you will find them interesting." As Dexvi returned to her quarters, her mind was full of questions. Nothing about this colony made sense. The people were too calm, too prepared, too sophisticated. The technology was too effective. The education too advanced, the society too organized. These humans were hiding something, and she was determined to find out what it was. The next morning, Captain Dexvi woke up with more questions than answers. She had spent most of the night thinking about everything she had seen. The colony looked simple, but there were too many things that did not make sense. She decided to ask her crew what they thought. "Krelton, have you analyzed the soil samples we collected yesterday?" she asked as they gathered for breakfast. "Yes, Captain. The results are very strange. The soil should be almost impossible to farm. It has very few nutrients and the wrong minerals for growing food. But somehow, the humans are getting amazing results from it. Could they be using fertilizers we did not detect? I checked for that. There are no chemical fertilizers anywhere. But the soil in their farms is much richer than the soil in other places. It is like they have changed the very nature of the earth itself." Zixara joined the conversation. "I have been monitoring their communications. They use a very basic radio system, but the way they talk to each other is interesting. They use codes and references that I do not understand. It is like they are talking about things without saying them directly." "What kind of things?" asked Dexvi. "Yesterday, I heard someone say the morning project needs attention, and another person replied, the deep fields are ready for the next phase. It could be normal farm talk, but it sounded more important than that." Dexvi nodded. "Keep listening. And both of you, pay attention to everything today. I want to know what these humans are really doing here." After breakfast, Sarah Chan arrived to continue their tour. She was as friendly and calm as before, but Dexvi noticed that she seemed to be watching the aliens carefully, as if she was studying their reactions to everything. "Today I thought we could visit some of our workshops," Sarah said. "We make most of our tools and equipment ourselves, and I think you will find our methods interesting." They walked to a large building near the center of town. From the outside, it looked like a simple workshop with stone walls and a metal roof. But when they went inside, Dexvi was surprised by what she saw. The workshop was much larger than it appeared from outside. The walls were lined with tools that looked basic, but were clearly made with great skill. The work tables were perfectly level and smooth. Everything was organized and clean in a way that suggested very advanced planning. "We pride ourselves on good craftsmanship," Sarah explained as she led them through the workshop. "Every tool must be perfect, or it will not do its job properly." A group of workers were building what looked like a simple plow, but as Dexvi watched them work, she noticed that they were using techniques that seemed far too advanced for such a basic tool. The metal they were shaping was cut with perfect precision. The joints were made with a kind of welding that produced incredibly strong bonds. "Your metalworking skills are very impressive," she said to one of the workers, a middle-aged man named David. "Thank you," David replied. "We have had many years to perfect our methods. We believe that if you are going to make something, you should make it the best way possible." "Where did you learn these techniques?" David and Sarah exchanged a quick look. "They have been passed down through our families," Sarah said. "Each generation teaches the next how to improve on what came before." Krelton was examining one of the finished tools. "Captain, this metal is much stronger than it should be. The alloy composition is unlike anything I have seen from a primitive workshop." "We use local metals," David explained. "But we have learned special ways to mix and heat them. Small secrets that make big differences." As they moved through the workshop, Dexvi noticed more strange things. The workers moved with the kind of coordination that usually came from years of training in advanced manufacturing. Their tools, while simple in appearance, cut and shaped metal with unusual precision, and everyone seemed to know exactly what they were doing without needing to be told. "How do you coordinate your work so well?" she asked Sarah. "We plan everything very carefully," Sarah replied. "Everyone knows their job and how it fits with everyone else's job. It must take a lot of meetings and discussions to achieve this level of organization. We have efficient ways of communicating," Sarah said. "When you live in a small community for many generations, you learn to work together very well." After the workshop, Sarah took them to see the colony's power system. Dexvi expected to see basic generators or maybe solar panels. Instead, she found a small building that hummed with energy but showed no obvious source of power. "How do you generate electricity?" asked Krelton. "We use fusion reactors," Sarah said casually, as if this was perfectly normal. "Fusion reactors?" Dexvi was shocked. Fusion power was advanced technology that many galactic civilizations had trouble mastering. How did an isolated colony develop fusion technology? "We did not develop it," Sarah explained. "Our original colony ship had fusion reactors. We have simply maintained and improved them over the years. But fusion reactors require very advanced knowledge to maintain, and very pure materials. We have been careful to preserve the knowledge, and we have learned to purify materials using traditional methods." Krelton scanned the building with his equipment. "Captain, these readings are incredible. The reactors are not only working, they are working better than most modern fusion systems. The efficiency is nearly perfect." "We have had time to make small improvements," Sarah said. "When you work with the same equipment for many generations, you learn all its secrets." That afternoon, they visited the colony's medical facility. Again, Dexvi expected to see basic first aid supplies and maybe some simple surgery equipment. Instead, she found a clean, well-organized clinic with equipment that looked primitive but seemed to work with impossible effectiveness. The colony's doctor, an elderly woman named Elena, showed them around. "We have very little disease here," she said. "And when people do get hurt or sick, we can usually help them quickly. What is your secret? Asked HFY. Prevention is the best medicine, Elena replied. We make sure everyone eats well, exercises regularly, and lives in a healthy environment. But we also have some traditional remedies that work very well. Elena showed them a cabinet full of medicines that appeared to be made from local plants. But when Krelton scanned them, he found chemical compounds that were incredibly complex and precisely mixed. These medicines are more advanced than anything we use in Zephyrian hospitals, he whispered to HFY. The molecular structures are perfect for treating specific diseases. Dr. Elena, HFY said, how did you learn to make such effective medicines from local plants? Trial and error, Elena said with a smile, and careful observation. When you pay attention to how plants affect the body, you can learn amazing things. But HFY noticed that Elena's hands moved with the precision of someone who had been trained in advanced biochemistry. And the way she talked about molecular structures suggested knowledge that went far beyond traditional plant medicine. As evening approached, Sarah suggested they visit the colony school again. Our children have prepared a presentation about our history, she said. I think you will find it educational. The presentation was held in the school's main classroom. About 50 children, ranging from very young to teenagers, had prepared songs, poems, and speeches about their colony's past. But as HFY listened, she realized that the children knew far more about science, mathematics, and galactic history than they should have. One young girl, maybe 10 years old, gave a speech about stellar navigation that showed understanding of complex physics. A teenage boy presented a poem about genetic diversity that demonstrated knowledge of advanced biology. The youngest children sang songs that included mathematical concepts that most adult aliens would find difficult. Your children are remarkably well educated, HFY said to Sarah. We believe that every child should learn as much as possible. Sarah replied, knowledge is the most important gift we can give them. But how do they learn such advanced concepts? We have good teachers. And children are much smarter than most people think. After the presentation, one of the teenage girls approached HFY. Captain, may I ask you a question? Of course. What is the current state of quantum field theory research in the Zephyrian Republic? HFY was stunned. Quantum field theory was one of the most advanced areas of physics. Very few beings in the galaxy understood it well enough to ask meaningful questions about it. That is a very sophisticated question, she said carefully. Why are you interested in quantum field theory? We study all kinds of science here, the girl replied. I am particularly interested in how quantum fields might be manipulated to affect gravity. Sarah quickly stepped in. Maria reads a lot of old science books, she said. Sometimes she asks questions about things that are too advanced for her age. But HFY could see that Maria understood exactly what she was asking about. This was not a child asking random questions from books she did not understand. This was someone with real knowledge asking about cutting-edge research. That night, HFY called a meeting with her crew. What we are seeing here does not make sense, she said. These people are not primitive colonists. They have advanced technology, sophisticated knowledge, and capabilities that rival the best civilizations in the galaxy. But why are they pretending? To be simple farmers? Asked Zixara. That is what we need to find out, the Phi replied. Tomorrow, Sarah promised to show us their more specialized facilities. I think we are finally going to learn what they are really doing here. Should we contact the Galactic Council? Asked Krelton. If these humans have advanced technology, it could be important for galactic security. Not yet, HFY decided. We need to understand what we are dealing with first. These people have been peaceful and welcoming, but they are clearly hiding something significant. Until we know what it is, we should be very careful about who we tell. As the crew prepared for sleep, HFY stood outside their guest house and looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there was the rest of the galaxy, full of civilizations that thought they understood the limits of technology and knowledge, but here on this remote planet, a small group of humans had apparently achieved things that should have been impossible. Tomorrow, she would finally learn their secrets. She just hoped that when she did, she would understand why they had chosen to keep those secrets hidden for so long. In the distance, she could see lights moving in some of the colony's buildings. People were still working, even late at night. Whatever they were doing, it was important enough to keep them busy around the clock. And whatever they were hiding, it was big enough to fool visiting aliens for days. Sarah Chun appeared beside her, moving so quietly that Dexvi had not heard. Her approach. "Cannot sleep either?" Sarah asked. "I have many questions," Dexvi replied honestly. "Tomorrow you will have answers," Sarah said. "But I hope you will understand why we have been so careful about revealing them. Are we in danger?" "No," Sarah said quickly. "You are our guests, and you will always be safe here. But what we are going to show you tomorrow will change how you think about many things. Some knowledge is too important to share carelessly." With that mysterious statement, Sarah wished her good night and walked back toward the town. Dexvi watched her go, more curious than ever about what tomorrow would bring. The third day started with clear skies, but Dexvi could see dark clouds gathering on the horizon. Sarah Chien arrived early at the guest house, carrying what looked like simple rain gear. "We might have some weather today," Sarah said. "But that will not stop our tour. In fact, it might help you understand us better." "How so?" asked Dexvi. "You will see," Sarah replied with a mysterious smile. "Are you ready to visit our community center?" The community center was a large building in the middle of town that Dexvi had noticed before but had not yet visited. From the outside, it looked like all the other buildings, simple stone and wood construction that seemed to fit with the colony's basic appearance. As they walked toward the building, Sarah chatted about the weather and the day's plans. But Dexvi noticed that other colonists were also moving toward the community center. Some carried equipment that looked more advanced than the simple tools she had seen before. Others moved with a sense of purpose that suggested this was not just a casual gathering. "Is there something special happening today?" Krelton asked. "We have some projects to show you," Sarah said. "Things we have been working on for a long time." When they reached the community center, Sarah stopped at the front door. "Before we go inside, I need to tell you something important. What you are about to see is not what it appears to be. We have been very careful about how we present ourselves to you, but now it is time for you to learn the truth." "What truth?" asked Dexvi. "The truth about who we really are and what we have been doing here for the past 2 centuries. Sarah opened the door and led them inside. The moment they entered, Dexvi knew that everything had changed. The interior of the building was nothing like what she had expected. Instead of a simple community hall, they found themselves in a sophisticated control room filled with advanced technology. Screens showed complex data streams. Holographic displays presented 3-dimensional models of scientific experiments, and equipment hummed with power that far exceeded anything the aliens had seen in the colony so far. "This is impossible," whispered Krelton. "Where did all this technology come from?" "We built it," Sarah said simply. "Just like we built everything else here." Dexvi looked around in amazement. The technology in the room was not just advanced, it was beyond anything she had ever seen. Some of the equipment appeared to manipulate energy in ways that violated known physics. Other machines seemed to be working with materials at the molecular level with impossible precision. "I do not understand," she said. "Yesterday you showed us simple workshops and basic tools. How can you have this level of technology?" "Because we are not who you think we are," Sarah replied. "Please sit down. This will take some time to explain." They sat in comfortable chairs that had appeared from hidden compartments in the floor. Around them, the room continued to display incredible technology, but Sarah's attention was focused entirely on her guests. 215 years ago, a ship called the Scientific Pioneer left Earth, Sarah began. But it was not a normal colony ship filled with families looking for a new home. It was a research vessel carrying some of Earth's most brilliant scientists, engineers, and philosophers. "A research vessel? But you said your ancestors were colonists." "They were in away, but their mission was not to build a farming community. Their mission was to conduct research that was too dangerous to do near populated worlds. Sarah stood and walked to one of the large screens. With a gesture, she brought up an image of the original ship. It was massive, much larger than a normal colony vessel, and filled with laboratories instead of living quarters. The scientists on the Pioneer were working on projects that could revolutionize civilization or destroy it, Sarah continued. Experiments with gravity, consciousness, dimensional physics, and genetic engineering. Earth's government decided that this research needed to be done far away from any inhabited worlds. So they sent you here, said the HFY. They sent our ancestors here. The plan was for the scientists to work for 50 years, then return to Earth with their discoveries. But something went wrong. What went wrong? War broke out near Earth. The communication relay stations were destroyed. The Pioneer lost contact with home and had no way to know if it was safe to return. So the scientists made a difficult decision. Sarah changed the display to show the early days of the colony. The HFY could see the same scientists she had thought were simple farmers, but now they were clearly working on advanced research projects. They decided to continue their work here and wait for Earth to re-establish contact. But as years passed with no word from home, they realized they might be waiting forever. So they made an even bigger decision, which was to build a permanent research community and pass their knowledge to their children. Every generation would continue the work and add to the discoveries. The HFY was beginning to understand. So, for 2 centuries, you have been conducting advanced research while pretending to be simple farmers. Exactly. We learned early that it was safer to appear primitive when strangers arrived. We have had a few visitors over the years. Traders, explorers, refugees. Most of them left quickly when they saw what appeared to be a struggling agricultural colony. Those who stayed longer never suspected what we were really doing. But why maintain the deception? Why not share your discoveries? With the galaxy, Sarah's expression became serious. Because our ancestors were right to be concerned about the dangers. Some of what we have learned could destroy entire civilizations if it fell into the wrong hands. Thunder rumbled outside, and the lights in the room flickered for a moment. But instead of going dark, they seemed to stabilize themselves automatically. The storm is starting, Sarah observed. This is actually perfect timing. You are about to see one of our more impressive achievements. She led them to a large window that looked out over the town. The dark clouds were now directly overhead, and lightning was beginning to flash. But as the HFY watched, she noticed something impossible. The lightning is not hitting anything, she said. That is correct. We control the weather in this area. Control the weather? How? Gravity manipulation, Sarah said, as if this was completely normal. When you can create small gravity fields, you can redirect electrical storms, move air masses, and even change precipitation patterns. As they watched, the storm seemed to flow around the town like water around a rock. Lightning flashed in the distance, but the town remained protected by an invisible barrier. This is incredible, said Krelton. Weather control technology like this could transform entire planets. Yes, it could, Sarah agreed. It could also be weaponized to destroy planets. That is why we have been so careful about who we tell. She led them to another area of the room where a group of colonists were working on what appeared to be medical equipment. But as they got closer, the HFY realized that this was far beyond anything she understood as medicine. Dr. Elena, would you show our guests the regeneration project? Sarah asked. Elena looked up from her work and smiled. Of course. Captain HFY, yesterday you asked about our medical capabilities. Let me show you something remarkable. She picked up what looked like a simple plant cutting. But when she placed it in a special container, it began to grow at an impossible rate. Within minutes, it had developed into a fully mature plant with flowers and fruit. Accelerated cellular regeneration, Elena explained. We can speed up natural healing and growth processes by factors of thousands. A wound that should take weeks to heal can be repaired in minutes. How? Asked HFY. Nanotechnology combined with genetic manipulation. We introduce microscopic machines into living tissue that repair damage and accelerate natural healing processes. Have you tested this on humans? We have been using it for decades. No one in our colony has died from injury or disease in over 50 years. We can repair almost any damage to the human body. Elena showed them brain scans that displayed neural activity in real time. We can even repair brain damage and enhance cognitive function. Every person in our colony has been improved to some degree. Improved how? Enhanced memory, faster thinking, better problem-solving abilities. Nothing dramatic, but enough to make us significantly more intelligent than baseline humans. This explains so much. The children's advanced knowledge, the adults' sophisticated understanding of complex topics, the incredible coordination in their work, all of it made sense now. But the most impressive project, Sarah said, is our consciousness research. She led them to an area where several colonists were sitting quietly with strange devices attached to their heads. Their eyes were closed, but displays around them showed intense brain activity. "What are they doing?" asked Sixara. "Sharing knowledge directly from mind to mind. We have developed a form of technological telepathy that allows people to transfer memories, skills, and even emotions to each other. Direct mental communication, more than communication. Direct knowledge transfer. Someone who has never played music can receive the memories and skills of a master musician in minutes. A young person can gain the wisdom and experience of an elder without having to live through decades of learning." The HFY watched the displays in amazement. The brain patterns showed information flowing between multiple minds in ways that should have been impossible. "This is how you coordinate your work so well," she realized. "You can share thoughts and plans directly." "Yes, and it is how we have been able to make such rapid progress in our research. When every discovery can be instantly shared with everyone. Who needs it? Advancement happens much faster." But surely there are limits to what you can share this way." "There are some restrictions," Sarah admitted. "The process works best with factual knowledge and skills. Personality and individual. Creativity are much harder to transfer. But for scientific research and technical knowledge, it is incredibly effective." The storm outside was getting stronger, but the town remained perfectly protected. Lightning flashed constantly in the surrounding area, but not a single bolt touched any building in the colony. "How many people know about these capabilities?" asked HFY. "Every adult in the colony. We begin teaching children about our real work when they reach a certain age and level of understanding. By the time they are teenagers, they are contributing to research projects." "And you have kept this secret for over 2 centuries?" "We have had to. Our ancestors understood that some knowledge is too dangerous to share freely. We have continued that tradition." Sarah showed them more projects, machines that could manipulate matter at the atomic level, computers that use quantum effects to process information at impossible speeds, and energy systems that seem to violate the laws of physics. "Captain," she said seriously, "what I am about to show you is our most important achievement. But it is also our most dangerous." She led them to a sealed chamber in the center of the room. Inside, they could see a small device that glowed with soft light. "What is it?" asked Carlton. "A gravity generator. This device can create artificial gravity fields of any strength or configuration we choose." "That should be impossible. The energy requirements alone would be enormous. Not if you understand how gravity really works. We have learned to manipulate the basic forces that hold reality together." Sarah activated the device with a simple command. Suddenly, objects in the chamber began floating in complex patterns, following gravitational fields that changed direction and strength according to the device's programming. With technology like this, we could move planets, create artificial solar systems, or even manipulate the structure of space itself. "Or destroy them," HFY said quietly. "Exactly. This is why we have been so careful. In the wrong hands, our discoveries could end civilizations or even damage the fabric of reality itself." The storm outside was beginning to fade, but its demonstration of the colony's power had made its point. These humans could control forces that most civilizations could barely understand. Now you know our secret, Sarah said. We are not simple farmers struggling to survive. We are the most advanced research community in the galaxy, and we have been working in secret for over 2 centuries to unlock the deepest mysteries of the universe. HFY looked around the room at technology that redefined what she thought was possible. These humans had achieved breakthroughs that could transform the galaxy or destroy it. What happens now? She asked. That, said Sarah, depends on what you choose to do with this knowledge. For several minutes, nobody spoke. HFY and her crew stood in the advanced control room, trying to process everything they had seen. The technology around them hummed quietly, as if waiting for their decision about what would happen next. You want to know what we will do with this knowledge, HFY finally said. But first, I need to understand something. Why are you telling us this now? You could have kept your secret hidden. Sarah Chun smiled sadly. Because keeping secrets is becoming harder every year. The galaxy is getting smaller. More ships are exploring the outer regions. Sooner or later, someone would have discovered our true nature. We decided it was better to reveal ourselves to peaceful explorers like you than to wait for someone with bad intentions to find us. And you trust us? We have been watching galactic affairs for 2 centuries. We know about the Zephyrian Republic and your commitment to scientific discovery and peaceful cooperation. If we have to trust someone with our secret, we would prefer it to be your people. Krelton was still staring at the gravity manipulation device. Sarah, with technology like this, you could solve most of the galaxy's problems. Planets with bad weather could be fixed. Worlds with weak gravity could be improved. Space travel could become much easier and safer. That is true, Sarah agreed. But the same technology could also be used to destroy planets, create devastating weapons, or destabilize entire solar systems. Every breakthrough we have made has both wonderful possibilities and terrible dangers. So what do you propose? Asked HFY. Come with me. There is more you need to see. Sarah led them out of the control room and through corridors that definitely had not existed when the building looked like a simple community center. The walls were lined with laboratories and workshops where colonists worked on projects that seemed to push the boundaries of known science. In one lab, a team was working with materials that appeared to exist in multiple dimensions at once. In another, scientists were studying plants that had been modified to grow in the vacuum of space. A third group was testing devices that could apparently store unlimited amounts of energy in containers the size of coins. Each of these projects represents years or decades of research, Sarah explained. We have made breakthroughs in almost every field of science. But we have also learned that knowledge without wisdom can be incredibly dangerous. They stopped at a large window that looked out over what appeared to be a test area behind the town. But as HFY watched, she realized that the landscape was changing. Hills were rising and falling, rivers were changing course, and even the color of the soil was shifting. Terraforming experiments, Sarah said. We can reshape entire continents in a matter of hours. This planet was much harsher when our ancestors arrived. Most of what you see now is the result of 2 centuries of careful planetary engineering. You have been transforming the entire world? Slowly and carefully. We learned early that changing things too quickly can have unexpected consequences. So we have taken our time, making small improvements and studying the results before making more changes. As they watched, a team of colonists directed machines that seemed to be made of liquid metal. The machines flowed across the landscape, leaving behind perfectly flat fields and gentle hills in exactly the shapes the humans wanted. Programmable matter, Sarah explained. We can create machines that reshape themselves for any task. They can build houses, terraform land, or even repair themselves if they are damaged. This is incredible, said Zixara. But I still do not understand why you are showing us all of this. What do you want from us? Sarah turned away from the window and looked at each of the aliens in turn. We want your help in making a very difficult decision. She led them to another room where several colonists were gathered around a large table displaying a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. The map showed the locations of hundreds of civilizations, trade routes, and political boundaries. For 2 centuries we have been isolated from galactic affairs, Sarah said, but we have not been ignorant of them. We have been monitoring communications, tracking political developments, and studying the various species and civilizations. The map zoomed in on different areas as Sarah spoke. The HFY could see representations of ongoing conflicts, resource shortages, and other problems affecting various worlds. We have identified dozens of problems that our technology could solve, Sarah continued. Planets dying from environmental collapse could be restored. Species facing extinction could be saved. Conflicts over resources could be ended by giving everyone access to unlimited clean energy. That sounds wonderful, said the HFY. What is the problem? The problem is that the same technology could also make these problems much worse. A device that can restore a dead planet could also be used to kill a living one. Medical nanotechnology that can cure any disease could also be programmed to create unstoppable plagues. Gravity manipulation that can move asteroids away from inhabited worlds could also be used to drop asteroids onto those worlds. An older man named Professor Marcus joined the conversation. We have spent decades studying the history of technological advancement in various civilizations. The pattern is always the same. New discoveries are initially used for good purposes, but eventually someone finds ways to weaponize them. The more powerful the technology, the more devastating it becomes when it is misused. So you are afraid to share your discoveries because they might be turned into weapons, said Krelton. We are certain they would be turned into weapons, Sarah corrected. The question is whether the benefits would outweigh the dangers. The map changed to show a simulation of what might happen if the colony's technology was shared with the galaxy. In some scenarios, the results were wonderful. Dead worlds brought back to life, diseases eliminated, conflicts resolved. But in other scenarios, the results were catastrophic. Entire species wiped out by weaponized nanotechnology. Solar systems destroyed by gravity weapons, civilizations collapsed by uncontrolled terraforming. We have run thousands of simulations, Professor Marcus explained. In about 60% of cases, sharing our technology leads to a golden age of peace and prosperity. But in 40% of cases, it leads to destruction on a scale the galaxy has never seen. Those are not very good odds, HFY admitted. No, they are not, which is why we have remained hidden for so long. Sarah activated another display that showed detailed information about the major galactic powers. We have been studying every civilization, trying to determine which ones might be trustworthy enough to handle our technology responsibly. And what have you concluded? That there are no perfect answers. Every civilization has both good and bad elements. Even the most peaceful species have individuals who would misuse our discoveries. Even the most advanced cultures have governments that might be tempted to use our technology for conquest rather than cooperation. But staying hidden forever is not a realistic option, said Professor Marcus. As Sarah mentioned, the galaxy is getting smaller. Eventually, someone will discover us. When that happens, we want to be ready with a plan for how to handle the situation. What kind of plan? Asked Zixara. Sarah gestured to the galactic map. We have identified several possible approaches. The first is to share our technology, slowly and carefully, starting with the most trustworthy civilizations and the least dangerous discoveries. The second, continued Professor Marcus, is to establish a galactic council specifically for managing advanced technology. Any species that wants access to our discoveries would have to prove they can use them responsibly. And the third? Sarah's expression became very serious. The third option is to take a more direct role in galactic affairs. Instead of just sharing our technology, we would use it ourselves to solve problems and prevent conflicts. You mean become galactic peacekeepers? Something like that? We would use our capabilities to stop wars, heal damaged worlds, and ensure that dangerous technology is not misused. But this would require us to abandon our isolation and take responsibility for the entire galaxy. HFY considered the implications of each option. All of them would fundamentally change the balance of power in the galaxy, but the current situation could not continue indefinitely. "There is another factor to consider," said a younger woman who had just joined the group. "We are not the only ones working on advanced research." "What do you mean?" asked HFY. "I am Dr. Lisa Park, our intelligence specialist. We have been monitoring scientific development throughout the galaxy. Several civilizations are getting close to making breakthroughs similar to ours. Within the next 50 years, someone else will likely develop gravity manipulation technology or consciousness transfer or advanced nanotechnology." She brought up new displays showing research projects on various worlds. "The difference is that these other groups are not being careful about the dangers. They are focused on military applications and economic advantages. When they achieve their breakthroughs, they will almost certainly weaponize them immediately. So you face a choice," said HFY. "Share your technology now while you can control how it is used, or wait for others to develop similar capabilities without any of your wisdom or caution." "Exactly. If we act soon, we can guide the galaxy toward responsible use of advanced technology. If we wait too long, others will achieve the same capabilities but with none of our safeguards." Sarah led them to one final area of the complex. This room was different from the others. Instead of being filled with advanced technology, it contained something that looked almost like a temple. The walls were covered with symbols and writings from dozens of different species and cultures. "This is our philosophy center," Sarah explained. "For 2 centuries, we have not just been advancing science and technology. We have also been studying ethics, morality, and wisdom. We believe that advancement without wisdom is the path to destruction." "What have you learned?" "That power must always be balanced with responsibility. That knowledge without compassion leads to cruelty. That the most important discoveries are not about how to do things, but about whether we should do them." Elderly woman sitting in meditation opened her eyes and smiled at the visitors. "I am Elder Catherine Wong. I have been studying the philosophical implications of our discoveries for most of my life. What is your advice about sharing the colonies?" "Technology?" asked HFY. "That we must be very careful, but we cannot avoid the decision forever. The universe has a way of forcing change, whether we are ready for it or not. The question is whether we will guide that change or let it happen without our input." Elder Wong stood and approached the galactic map. "We have spent 2 centuries learning to use power responsibly. Now we must decide whether to trust the rest of the galaxy to do the same. And if they prove unworthy of that trust, then we will have to make harder choices. But we cannot let fear of possible misuse prevent us from trying to help. The galaxy faces real problems that our technology could solve. People are suffering while we debate whether it is safe to help them." Sarah looked at HFY and her crew. "This is why we have told you our secret. We need outside perspectives from people we trust. You have seen what we can do and heard our concerns. What do you think we should do?" HFY realized that she was being asked to help make one of the most important decisions in galactic history. The choice made here could determine whether the galaxy entered a golden age of peace and prosperity or descended into an era of unprecedented warfare and destruction. "Before I can give you an answer," she said carefully, "I need to know one more thing. If you decide to share your technology, what safeguards would you put in place to prevent it from being misused?" Sarah smiled. "Now you are asking the right questions. Come with me. There's one more thing we need to show you." Sarah led Captain HFY and her crew to the deepest part of the facility, through corridors that seemed to exist in dimensions that did not quite make sense. The walls shimmered with energy patterns that hurt to look at directly, and the air itself felt different, charged with possibilities. "What we are about to show you," Sarah said as they walked, "is our ultimate safeguard. It is also our most dangerous creation." They entered a massive circular chamber that extended both up and down farther than the aliens could see. In the center of the chamber floated a sphere of pure light that pulsed with complex rhythms. Around the sphere, hundreds of displays showed data streams that moved too quickly for normal minds to follow. "This is the Consciousness Archive," Sarah announced. "It contains the complete knowledge, memories, and wisdom of every person who has ever lived in our colony." "The complete knowledge of everyone?" asked Trelton in amazement. "Every scientific discovery, every philosophical insight, every moment of understanding achieved by our people over 2 centuries. But more than that, it also contains their moral development, their ethical reasoning, and their emotional growth." Dr. Elena appeared beside them. "We discovered early in our research that knowledge without wisdom is dangerous. So we created this system to preserve not just what our people learned, but how they learned to use that knowledge responsibly." "How does it work?" asked Zixara. "Every person in our colony is connected to the archive through the consciousness transfer technology you saw earlier. Throughout their lives, their experiences, insights, and moral development are continuously recorded. When they die, their complete consciousness becomes part of the collective wisdom." HFY stared at the pulsing sphere of light. "You have created a repository of human wisdom that spans generations." "More than that," said Sarah. "The archive can also project that wisdom forward. It can predict how different civilizations might use our technology based on their history, culture, and moral development." Professor Marcus joined them, carrying a device that connected him to the archive. "Watch this," he said, activating the connection. Suddenly, the displays around the chamber came alive with incredibly detailed simulations. HFY could see the entire galaxy mapped out with perfect accuracy, showing not just the current state of every civilization, but their likely future development. "The archive has been studying galactic civilization for decades," Professor Marcus explained. "It knows how every major species thinks, how their governments work, and how they are likely to react to new technology. Based on this analysis," Sarah continued, "we have developed a plan that we believe offers the best chance of sharing our knowledge safely." The display changed to show a detailed strategy that took HFY's breath away. Instead of simply giving technology to other civilizations, the humans proposed to establish a network of hidden colonies throughout the galaxy. Each colony would be staffed by humans who had been enhanced with the collective wisdom of the archive. "We call it the Guardian Network," Sarah explained. "Small groups of our people would settle on uninhabited worlds near every major civilization. They would observe, learn, and, when appropriate, offer assistance." "Assistance how?" "By solving problems that threaten entire species. If a planet is dying from environmental collapse, the Guardian team would secretly repair the damage. If a civilization is about to destroy itself with dangerous technology, the Guardians would intervene to prevent disaster." Dr. Park added, "The key is that we would not give the technology directly to other species. Instead, we would use it ourselves to help them, but in ways that appear natural or coincidental. For example," said Professor Marcus, "if a species is facing famine, we would improve their soil and weather patterns, but make it look like natural changes. If they are threatened by asteroids, we would redirect the asteroids using gravity manipulation, but make it appear that the asteroids changed course on their own." HFY was amazed by the scope and sophistication of the plan. "You would become secret guardians of the entire galaxy." "Yes, but only for civilizations that prove they are moving toward wisdom and peace. Species that continue to choose violence and exploitation would receive no help at all." "How would you decide which civilizations deserve help?" Sarah gestured to the archive. "The collective wisdom of our people, combined with detailed analysis of each species' moral development. The archive can predict with remarkable accuracy which civilizations are likely to use help wisely and which would only become more dangerous if their problems were solved." "And what about civilizations that are already advanced enough to discover your activities?" "Those would be offered a choice," said Dr. Elena. "They could join the Guardian Network by proving their commitment to peace and wisdom, or they could be discouraged from pursuing dangerous research." "Discouraged how?" by making their dangerous experiments fail in ways that appear accidental, by introducing small problems that force them to focus on more peaceful pursuits, by demonstrating subtly that some paths of development are not wise to follow. The implications were staggering. The humans were proposing to become the secret shepherds of galactic civilization, guiding development toward peace and prosperity while preventing the emergence of technologies that could destroy entire worlds. This is an enormous responsibility, HFY said carefully. How can you be sure that your people would use such power wisely? Because of this, Sarah said, touching the connection to the archive. Suddenly, HFY found herself experiencing something impossible. She could feel the collective wisdom of thousands of humans across 2 centuries. She experienced their struggles with difficult decisions, their careful weighing of consequences, their commitment to helping others even at great personal cost. For a moment, she understood what it felt like to carry the responsibility for entire civilizations. She felt the weight of knowledge that could save worlds or destroy them. She experienced the careful moral reasoning that had guided every decision the colony had made for over 200 years. When the connection ended, she was trembling. That is how we ensure wisdom, Sarah said gently. Every guardian would carry the collective moral experience of our entire civilization. They would never make decisions alone or based on personal desires. Every action would be guided by the accumulated wisdom of our best and most thoughtful people. But there is one more element to our plan, Professor Marcus said. We want to train guardians from other species as well. Other species? Humans are not the only wise species in the galaxy. The Zephyrians, for example, have a long history of peaceful exploration and scientific advancement. We would like to invite selected individuals from your people to join the Guardian Network. You would share your technology with us? More than that, we would share our wisdom. Selected Zephyrians would receive the same consciousness enhancement that our people have, including access to the collective knowledge of the archive. They would become part of our extended family. HFY realized that she was being offered something unprecedented. Not just access to incredible technology, but participation in a plan to guide the development of the entire galaxy. Why would you trust us with this responsibility? Because the archive has analyzed your civilization extensively. Your people have the moral foundation and philosophical sophistication to handle this kind of power responsibly. You understand that advancement without wisdom leads to destruction. And if we refuse, then we will proceed with humans alone, but we would prefer to have partners. The galaxy is very large, and even with our technology we cannot monitor and protect every civilization by ourselves. Elder Wong appeared in the chamber. There's one more thing you should know. The archive has predicted that within the next century, several civilizations will independently develop technology similar to ours. When that happens, there will be a period of great danger as multiple species struggle for dominance with weapons that could destroy the galaxy. The only way to prevent this catastrophe, Sarah continued, is to establish the Guardian Network soon enough to guide these developments in safe directions. We estimate that we have perhaps 50 years before the window of opportunity closes. And if we miss that window, then the galaxy will face an age of destruction unlike anything in its history. Entire species will be wiped out. Whole solar systems will be destroyed. The survivors will be set back thousands of years in their development. The weight of the decision pressed down on HFY. She was being asked not just to keep the colony's secret, but to help decide the future of galactic civilization. I need to communicate with my government, she said finally. We understand, Sarah replied. But we ask that you be very careful about who you tell. The wrong people learning about our capabilities could force us to take more drastic action. To protect ourselves, what kind of drastic action? We have the power to make this entire solar system disappear from normal space. If we are threatened with military action or forced discovery, we can retreat to a dimension where no one can follow us. But if we do that, the galaxy will lose its only chance for guided advancement toward wisdom. HFY understood the threat. If the galaxy's governments reacted to the news with fear or greed, They might force the humans to abandon their plan to help. The result would be that everyone would lose, the humans would disappear, and the galaxy would face the coming age of dangerous technology without any guidance. "We will give you time to make your decision," Sarah said. "But not too much time. Events are moving faster than we had hoped. We have detected at least 3 civilizations that are close to making dangerous breakthroughs. We need to begin establishing the Guardian Network within the next few years." As they prepared to leave the archive chamber, HFY asked one final question. "If we agree to join you, what would happen to our normal lives? Would Zephyrian Guardians have to give up their connections to their own people?" "Not at all," Sarah replied. "Guardians would maintain their normal identities and continue their regular work. The Guardian activities would be secret, known only to those who need to know. Most Zephyrians would never even know that some of their people were part of the network, and the enhanced consciousness abilities would appear to be natural talent or exceptional insight. The enhancements are subtle enough that they would not be obvious to outside observers." As they returned to the surface, HFY's mind was spinning with the implications of everything she had learned. The humans had not just developed incredible technology, they had created a comprehensive plan for guiding galactic civilization toward a future of peace and prosperity. But the plan required trust on a scale that had never been attempted before. It required her people to accept that a small group of enhanced humans and aliens should secretly guide the development of entire civilizations. Standing outside the community center that had revealed so many secrets, HFY looked up at the stars. Somewhere among those points of light were civilizations that faced an uncertain future. Some would develop wisdom and prosper. Others would create terrible weapons and destroy themselves. But now there was a third possibility. With the Guardian Network, perhaps all of them could be guided toward wisdom and peace. The question was whether the galaxy was ready for such guidance, and whether she was ready to help provide it. "Sarah," she said finally, "we will need to discuss this with our government. But I want you to know that personally, I believe your plan offers the best hope for the future." "Thank you," Sarah replied. "That gives us hope that we can move forward together." As the Void Seeker prepared to leave New Eden, HFY knew that she was carrying more than just information back to her people. She was carrying the future of the galaxy itself.